With round 13 officially over, Max Verstappen gets the win on his home turf in the Netherlands. What a raucous atmosphere and crowd. It gave me goosebumps just seeing that applause and just that ovation Max got with his win. And also, hats off to the Dutch fans for being so respectable, for all the drivers, especially with Max and Lewis's rivalry in the championship fight. Really classy act from the fans. Absolutely brilliant drive from Max. Lewis pushed as hard as he could. Still have to give him his effort for trying as hard as he could. And man, you got to feel bad for Valtteri Bottas. I mean, the team has officially said, screw you, we do not care about you anymore. But also, hats off to Bottas for defying team orders and saying, no, I'm going to go for the fastest lap. And, I'm not really going to be listening to you guys anymore. It's so unfortunate how Mercedes have kind of treated Bottas. He has done so much for them as a team. He's done so much for them, helping Lewis win several of his titles. And they have essentially discarded him away so quickly for what is presumed to be George Russell taking that seat in 2022. I really do feel for Bottas. I think anybody that has any ounce of compassion, you have to feel for Bottas and just how they have really mistreated him this year in the season. And one thing I want to say in regards to the championship fight between Max and Lewis, we are having and getting a great championship fight on our hands here in this season. And it still kind of, I guess, upsets me sometimes to see toxic fans from both sides still at each other's necks and wanting Max and Lewis to hate each other. I saw comments, oh, Max and Lewis hate each other. I love it, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, they don't. In fact, I think Max and Lewis respect each other a lot more than what the media, for one, and toxic fans are giving them credit for. I think they've always respected each other. Max is now finally able to compete with Lewis in a much better car with much better machinery, and Max is still developing his craft. Such a great driver he is. Lewis still has quite a bit in the tank. I think at least 2 seasons worth. Maybe 2023 is probably when he'll retire, possibly 2022 depending on how the season goes. But we are witnessing such a great title fight on our hands between two of the best drivers in the world as far as Formula One is concerned currently on the grid. And it still seems like there's such a toxicity in the community of fans wanting one side to hate the other, or saying you can only like Lewis or you can only like Max. And that to me is just ridiculous. I understand I'll probably receive some criticisms for that, but I'm going to stand my ground and say you are completely capable of liking both Lewis and Max for whatever your individual reasons are. And if you don't like one or the other, that's also fine. But saying these two guys hate each other when their body language has never communicated that ever, it's just ridiculous. And again, it's just seems like it's fans and some aspects of the media wanting to create controversy and a negative beef or a negative rivalry that's not there. Max and Lewis, I think, have always had a very clean, competitive rivalry. Well, clean, I guess, is subjective depending on the race, so I'll take that back. But I think they've always had a very competitive and strong rivalry, and I don't think either driver has legitimately wanted to injure or hurt the other driver in any way, despite on-track incidents, and I'm going to stand by that. So, like I said, we're just witnessing something great between these two. And when I see comments and people still wanting them to hate each other, or saying that they do, or saying that there's so much toxicity between Max and Lewis, it's not. It's the toxic fans that are creating that negative animosity between the two drivers that I genuinely don't think exists. We know Max wants to get his first drivers' championship, and we know Lewis wants to try to get his 8th and set another record. So both drivers, I think, are competing and going as hard as they can, and still willing to respect the other. And it just really unfortunately saddens me that I think the community still has a long way to go when it comes to just that toxicity mindset of wanting to create controversy and issues, to me, that aren't really there. Max and Lewis, at the end of the day, both respect each other. We've seen that multiple times. Yeah, there have been incidents, and circumstances when they've bumped, gone off track, whatever. That's racing. That has happened. And obviously, if you're a fan of one or the other, you may blame one or the other. But at the end of the day, I still think both drivers genuinely respect each other. And anybody saying that they don't, and they're intentionally trying to, cause the other to have a mishap or an issue or something that would be unsportsmanlike, I think is completely false. And I think it's a lie. And I think it's just toxic people wanting to promote more toxicity, which is, to me, is the last thing that Formula One needs. So overall, the race was okay. I mean, obviously not a lot of overtakes. Chico seemed to be the only driver out there actually doing the overtakes, and everybody else just kind of seemed to stay in their relative position. Pierre Gasly deserves so much more credit. I feel like he's been so underrated this season, despite the fact that he has been performing at his best. He's been finishing so well in the points almost every race, and it just seems like nobody's really talking about his performance. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens with Pierre over the next couple of years. I don't see him really going back to Red Bull. I don't think that would still be a good environment for him. I think Pierre deserves to be on, obviously, a winning team. Not sure what the new regulations coming in for the 2022 season, what AlphaTauri is going to be able to do to improve their vehicle and maybe move out of the midfield and be able to compete a little bit higher. We'll have to see. But nonetheless, like I said, hats off to Max. Great drive from him. Lewis tried to challenge, but just was not good enough today. Really excited for next week's race. It should be interesting. I think Mercedes may have a slight advantage with their straight line speed, but we shall see. I'm just so excited. We have an awesome title fight on our hands. And if you are a genuine and legitimate fan of F1, you have to realize we may not get this type of title fight for a while again, a couple of years. Maybe next year we could, depending on the regulation changes, and obviously with Russell more than likely moving to Mercedes. We'll see how that's going to be. I mean, that's going to be crazy. Thinking about Russell and Hamilton in a Mercedes and then Max still in the Red Bull, it's going to be absolutely crazy to think that we could have 3 drivers legitimately fighting for the championship next season, and I just absolutely cannot wait. But this season is still not over. We still have a ways to go. The title fight between Max and Lewis is still extremely close, and it could go either way. You guys, let me know your thoughts on today's race in the comment section below. And if you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe. I do play F1 2021 on here with my team Career. I'll be playing GT Sport, some throwback racing games as well, and I'll be talking about the Formula One races. I'll try to, at least on a week-to-week basis. So appreciate and love support you guys who show on the video. It's kind of my first time doing this review, but hopefully you guys have enjoyed. Unfortunately, that is all the time I have for you today. I will see you all later. Goodbye.